We're continuing our discussion of Chapter 8 of Price Analysis, a fundamental approach to the study of commodity prices. And in this chapter, we've been talking about how we can go about forecasting production at different times of the year. And most recently, we were talking about how we can forecast yield per harvested acre by examining deviations from trend yield in years that were similar to the one we're experiencing now, or the one that we want to forecast. A little bit different way to do a very similar thing is to utilize the crop condition report that's put out every week on Monday afternoons. And the way that people usually or most commonly look at that is they take a look at the percent of the crop that's rated good to excellent and compare that to historical yield deviations. And then you can say to yourself, okay, we're seeing a significant drop in the good to excellent percentage, and that's a similar percentage that we saw in, say, 2002, so maybe we can estimate that our yield deviation from trend will be similar to that in 2002. So that would be focusing on this point here and saying, okay, if this percent yield deviation comes down to be about there, then maybe our deviation from yield will look similar to 2002 also and come down to about there. So this works with a modest amount of success. You can kind of do a sniff test of it here just by looking at this chart. You can see there's definitely a positive correlation between the two, but it's not a perfect correlation. But it is a tool that we have at our disposal. So what I want to do is show you how you can go and access those reports in real time and also get access to historical reports. So those condition estimates are found in the crop progress report that are put out every Monday afternoon during the growing season. So if I just click through to that, I can go and see the most recent report, and let's just take a look at what those look like. So they put it out as a PDF, and you can see for each crop they kind of keep track of various important time posts, if you will, in the crop process. So corn dented, that means that the kernels are just starting to dry out, and if you actually take an ear off the field, you'll see a little dent in the kernels. Let's skip down here to the part that will be the most interesting for us in terms of forecasting yield. So here are the condition ratings, and that is the one that was put out most recently this week in 2017. And you can see that they're organized by state of the major corn producing states. And the way that they break it up is they say, they survey farmers and they say, what percent of your crop is excellent? What percent of your crop is good? What percent of your crop is fair, poor, and very poor? And farmers will say, well, let's take Illinois for example. The average of respondents said, well, this year we have 8% of our crop that's excellent, 44% of our crop that's good, and so on. 35% fair, 9% poor, 4% very poor. If you take that all together, you get this row here. That's the 18 major corn producing states. And people really pay the most attention to comparing the current number, which is the one that I just underlined, with the previous week and the previous year, especially the previous week, because if you see those conditions start to go down, you'll see the difference between these numbers become important. So in 2012, you would see these numbers, the current week numbers, being much less in the excellent category and the good category, indicating that a pretty substantial portion of the crop had moved from the good to excellent category down towards the poor or very poor. And that obviously signals bad news for crop yields. So similar to our approach in figure 8 above, we can say to ourselves, okay, what is a similar year to the year that we're experiencing in terms of good to excellent ratings, and try to make an educated guess about what our trend deviation from yield would be. And then we can come up with a pretty decent estimate of what yield per harvested acre would be. All right, so that concludes what we're going to discuss for Chapter 8. I want you to keep in mind that these methods for estimating yields are not perfect. There's a lot of variation and a lot of error from year to year if you even try to be very, very careful and do it in a highly statistical way. I've done that myself, and these methods always produce yield forecasts with some error. But in the absence of something better, it does give you a guide and can hopefully be a little bit informative if you're having to make production or business or any kind of decisions in the face of uncertainty about what crop yields and price will be.